All right. Um, Good afternoon, folks. It's good to be here. Good to be here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's been a while since I got on, since I did a podcast. It's a very wet day today in the capital. So people say these glasses make me look older. I think it's a perception thing. We generally associate glasses with maturity or age, but let me see what my sister Satara thinks. Satara, what do you think? So when I wear the sunglasses, do I look older? Or when I wear the Ray-Ban Meta glasses, which one should I do the live with? The Ray-Ban Meta, or of course you know I'm not gonna use the sunglasses. I look cool, right? Don't I look cool? I do look cool. It's good to be here, folks. Good afternoon to every one of you. Yes, I'm looking like $1 billion. You know, sisters have a way of, pumping their brothers up. But anyway, I'm going to use this one. This is my Father's Day gift. I received this gift for Father's Day from very special people to me. Recently, when I was in the U.S., these are not regular glasses. These are Ray-Ban Meta glasses. So basically, here it is practical. That's why I like to wear it. You can take your calls. It's high-tech stuff. You can take your calls. It can take pictures. Like when I click, like you see that light to the right side, it's just snap a picture. You can do a 3-minute video recording. It's very practical. It's very nice. You can listen to music. It's very, very good. So it's Ray-Ban. It's a Ray-Ban Meta, as in Meta, Facebook, the parent company of Facebook. Well, that's what Facebook is called now. So it's a practical thing. So I'm not just wearing it because I like it, but I like it. But it does a lot more than just wearing glasses. But yes, it's good to be here. It's great to be here. I am fired up. It's been a while since we spoke, and I've got a number of things I would like to talk about today in this monologue. Normally, you know what we do. We begin to speak when we hit 1,000 people. We're currently at 900 people. And we will begin to speak to you when we hit 1,000 people. Now, this is ginger drink. I've been, the worst sickness I get is the common cold. And what I normally use for it, which is very effective, is a homemade remedial drink that's ginger mixed with lime or lemon and peppermint. And it's very effective. It does. It works. It kicks the behind of that cold. So this is some of what I'm drinking. Before people start saying, "Oh, the man over there, you getting tired?" No, I am not getting tired. I would never do that. It would be disrespectful to come on here and be drinking. We've struck 1,000 views. Good morning. Good morning to you in the U.S. Good afternoon to you in Liberia. I'm Henry Pedro Costa. It is a pleasure to be here, and I am very, 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 I'm feeling ecstatic. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling euphoric. I'm feeling optimistic about a number of things, I like, what's happening in the country. I like what's happening on the Washington, D.C. front. I see the president and his delegation. Today he's going to be meeting with President Donald Trump, along with 4 other African leaders. You know, the president of Diomaye Faye of Senegal, the president of Guinea-Bissau and Chad, and it's great stuff, you know. And I'm very, very excited. So I'm going to be talking to you about a number of these things. That's why I decided to come on here today, and it's been a long, long time. I want to say, all right, so we're going to get down to it. So today, rather than do the usual rambling, political rambling or rant, we're not going to do that. We're going to strategically zoom in and focus on specific, what I believe are substantive issues we'll be discussing. My assessment of the general outlook domestically and our relationship and how we deal with strategic, how we rework and retool our engagement with foreign friends and partners. So as you all may be aware, Liberia's president, His Excellency Joseph Yoman Boakai, was recently invited. And this podcast is not to basically regurgitate or to bore you with facts that you already know. It's just to offer up my perspectives and, if you will, recommendations and views or takes on how I see things proceeding. So that's essentially what this podcast is going to be fixated on. So the president's invitation to attend the U.S. Africa Summit along with 4 other leaders. This is how I see it. So first of all, I think it's a great thing. We've got about 50-something countries in Africa. For our president to be one of 5 to get invited to the White House is a great thing. And but there's much more. There's much more. And so I just wanted to elaborate on that. So we all know President Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a transactional president. He's a transactional guy. This is the guy who comes from the real estate world. He's a mogul in the real estate world. He's a deal maker. He wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. He prides himself on being a cutthroat negotiator. He's all about making money. So he basically transitioned that business philosophy of deal making to the U.S. presidency, and that's something he does quite well. So when you look at the theme of this year's U.S. Africa Summit, it focuses on economic cooperation. The United States of America, on Donald Trump's watch, is no longer concerned with mere political or diplomatic exchanges or pleasantries. No. The U.S. under Trump focuses on economic cooperation. How can America extract as much as it can from its partners across the world, or those who are willing to enter partnership with the U.S.? Now, one of the strategic interests the U.S. government has had prior to President Trump coming to power is HPX, for example. You see what the president did? President Boakai came in, and from the very beginning, during his inaugural address, he mentioned that he would ensure that Liberia would establish the National Rail Authority, and he subsequently would issue an executive order further restating this position. A National Rail Authority would be established to facilitate a multi-user framework that allows other players, other actors, to have access to the rail, which is owned by Liberia, not by ArcelorMittal. And true to his commitment, yes, it did take some time, but prior to the president's trip to the United States, something happened. The government of Liberia and HPX, through Ivanhoe, a subsidiary of HPX, signed a deal. HPX had been wanting to do for a long time. HPX is in the iron ore business. They are operating a portion of the Samandu project in Guinea, one of the world's richest iron ore deposits. But they need access. They need to be able to transport that ore once it is extracted from Samandu, which is close up to the border with to the Liberian border on the Nimbasa, via Tokade to Buchanan, and then out of the country. You're talking, they're looking at around 25 million tons of iron ore per year being transported via our rail. And that's a lot of money they're going to be paying per ton. And so this deal has been lingering on. This is a deal that caused a lot of trouble for the past administration. It is believed that the way Samuel Tuwe and others treated HPX, they collected $37 million for HPX. This is public knowledge. And still did not consummate a deal with HPX. It is believed that it is because of the gimmicks they pulled on HPX that led to HPX lobbying to get Samuel Tuwe sanctioned. So now, President Boakai, knowing the tremendous benefits this deal would bring to the country, knowing how the U.S. government has made it their business from Biden to Trump to ensure that Liberia signs this deal so that these people can invest $1.8 billion. Now, I know you want to see the details. We all want to see the details. But don't forget, HPX is not going to be extracting iron ore in Liberia. They're simply going to be using the rail. That's all. That's all they're going to be doing. And so this is a great deal for us. It's going to create jobs. It's going to lead to the expansion of the current rail infrastructure. It's going to lead to the improvement of the Buchanan port. It's going to get expanded. They're going to bring brand new equipment. So it's going to be good all around. All around. Now, we, Liberia, we have this leverage. This is one of the reasons why President Boakai was invited. On top of the fact that Liberia just became one of the 15 members of the UN Security Council. It's a strategic place to sit. It means that nations around the world who have resolutions or matters before the UN Security Council would be seeking Liberia's support, Liberia's vote, because we now sit on the UN Security Council. So that catapults President Boakai in a strategically unique and potentially influential position. And I think I see President Boakai navigating that in a strategically smart way. For example, signing the HPX deal just before going to see Donald Trump. Now, you all remember Massad Boulos. Dr. Massad Boulos is a Lebanese-American businessman who's got serious commercial interests in Nigeria. His son is married to Donald Trump's daughter, Tiffany Trump. In fact, they've got a baby. And so Massad Boulos was on Twitter, which is now called X, touting this deal, encouraging the government of Liberia to sign this deal a few months ago. You all recall that yesterday, upon President Boakai and his delegation's arrival in the United States, one of the first key people they met was Dr. Massad Boulos, special advisor to President Trump on African affairs. Why do you think that? It is to tell President Boakai that we're pleased with your government's signing this deal with HPX, and we're looking forward to giving you all the support that you need, economic cooperation, economic support, and basically prepping President Boakai for his strategic engagement with President Trump today. Now, listen to this, folks. This same Dr. Massad Boulos, before the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda recently signed a deal in the White House, the two foreign ministers were present. Dr. Massad Boulos was again in Congo and Rwanda, meeting with those authorities, with President Paul Kagame, with President Felix Tshisekedi. And he met with them, encouraged them to make peace, because it is believed that President Kagame backs the M23 rebels who are currently occupying large swaths of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And you know how Congo is the richest country in all of Africa. Perhaps in terms of natural resources, Congo is the richest country in the world, it has been said. President Trump negotiated a peace settlement between the Congolese and the Rwandese because the United States wants to gain mining rights to rare earth minerals that are used in the production of cell phones and electric cars and computers and those things. And Congo is believed to have one of the largest deposit of rare earth minerals. You're talking coltan, you're talking lithium, you're talking a whole range, a whole array of crucial rare earth minerals. And today, China controls 67% of the rare earth mineral supply. And America wants to wean itself to reduce its dependence on China's rare earth minerals. So it's looking for rare earth minerals in other countries such as the DRC. So in order to get exclusive mining rights to Congo's massive deposits of rare earth minerals, it needs to negotiate peace so that in the presence of peace, America can then exploit these resources to advance America's industrial growth. The same kind of deal President Trump struck with the Ukrainians. You know, Zelensky, you remember that very colorful exchange in the Oval Office. After that colorful exchange, many people feared that the United States government would pull back completely support from Ukraine. No, it didn't happen. Do you know what brought them back together? Because Ukraine has a tremendous supply deposit of rare earth minerals. And the United States government wants those minerals. So that is why they were able to culminate a deal to give America exclusive access to rare earth minerals. In exchange, the United States government continues to supply weapons and munitions to the Ukrainians to continue to defend themselves against Russia. Now, why am I saying all of this? I'm saying this to say this United States government under Trump has completely recalibrated how the U.S. interacts with other countries. The U.S. is no longer about empty diplomacy. It is about economic cooperation, what they can get from you. Liberia has just offered something to America. What that does, it places our president in a strategic position to leverage that and be able to bring a lot of goodies back for our country. On July the 1st, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said, when USAID transitioned from a standalone organization to a subset, was co-opted into the State Department, he said the United States is moving away from charity-based aid to trade. USAID doesn't want to continue to give you money for free. USAID had a budget of $40 billion, or 1% of the U.S. national budget. They're no longer going to be giving you freebies. They would give countries money, they would do trade with you, strategic trade that would help to grow your economy sustainably rather than simply give you aid. How can we leverage that? We can leverage that by hiring. We need help also. And I'm going to propose to the government, President Bwaga and your team, while you're in D.C., I want your team to look up a guy called Brian Ballot. Brian Ballot. His last name is spelled B-A-L-L-A-R-D. He runs a firm called Ballot Partners. This guy is called when Trump was in office during his first term, Brian Ballot was the most influential lobbyist in Washington, D.C. Now that Trump is back in office, Brian Ballot is still the most powerful lobbyist in D.C. And let me tell you a little bit about Brian Ballot. Brian Ballot is close with Donald Trump. He's called Donald Trump's lobbyist. Brian Ballot is the former employer of the current chief of staff to Donald Trump. Susie Waz. Susie Waz worked for Brian Ballott's firm, Ballot Partners, for 9 years. Now she's the chief of staff to Donald Trump. Pam Bundy, the Attorney General of the United States, worked for Brian Ballot for 3 years. These are the people calling the shots. So hire Brian Ballot as a government. He would help us strategically engage with the U.S. government on the economic front as opposed to mere diplomatic front. Trump is not going to be impressed with, oh, Liberia and America have a long-standing historical ties, blah, blah, blah. They're not interested in that. They're interested in trade. What do you have to offer the United States of America? Let's retain the services of Brian Ballot. For government clients, he charges anywhere in the neighborhood of $20,000, $25,000 a month. You can retain his firm for 6 months, and you can sit down with him, and he will develop a strategic agenda for the government of Liberia, how we can engage USAID. For example, they are looking to helping countries grow their own economies in a sustainable way. The United States and Brazil, for example, produce 90% of the world's ethanol supply. The U.S. consumes about 17 billion gallons of ethanol per year. 10% of almost all the gas sold in America is ethanol. 90% petrol, 10% ethanol. Ethanol is a byproduct of so many, from so many crops. Cassava, for example. Cassava is a very rich source of ethanol. Liberia can grow cassava very cheaply. It grows here very, very cheaply. And so we can produce a lot of ethanol here, and we can ask the Americans, look, this is our economic agenda. This is how we want you to help us. We believe that growing our, investing in our agriculture sector, we can grow large plantations of cassava, process it into ethanol and other finished products, and we can sell directly to the United States of America. That is something the Americans would be interested in. Rather than simply go to them and say, give us free malaria drugs or give us free HIV drugs. No. Those are the ways we can engage them. Corn, for example, Anthony Gay, thank you, is another chief primary source of ethanol. We can grow corn here. Right now it's corn season. Corn is grown. Everywhere you turn, there's corn. So we can produce these things here and export ethanol to the United States. For example, the global ethanol market today is around $114 billion. It is estimated by 2034 is going to go up to $184 billion. Sorry, folks. So these are the ways, and this, for example, is what you call investing in impact economic multiplier programs. So we can get the Americans to help us to do that. We can do mechanized agriculture, rice production, those things like that. We can do that. Now, the only country in the world today that America is going to give free aid to is Israel. And you're not Israel. The UK thought, for example, or believed for a long time that they were the most important ally of the United States. Yes, they still may be, but Trump is putting a tariff on them. You're not Israel. So we need to recalibrate, retool, rework our diplomatic engagement. And from what I see so far, how I see President Boakai operating, we need to move away from diplomatic, just engaging on the diplomatic front to economic diplomacy, from political diplomacy to economic diplomacy, specifically when it comes to the United States of America. But I tell you this much, Joe Boakai sits in a strategic position and his heart is in the right place, and we can leverage what America has to offer, and we can bring a lot of goodies for our country. I'm very pleased. When the HPX deal was signed, the United States Embassy put out a statement announcing it, commending the government of Liberia for consummating this deal. George Weah failed to do it. Joe Boakai has done it. Joe Boakai gets invited. Trump now likes Joe Boakai. He's a big fan because Trump is a transactional president. He wants to extract as much as he can from every relationship or every transaction. And President Boakai does understand that. It is as clear as day. And so, President Boakai now stands in a strategic place to get a lot from America, but in the form of economic cooperation. And so let's hire Brian Ballot, folks. Before the delegation returns to Liberia, go on K Street. I believe that's where Brian Ballott's office is. Ballot Partners. Hire Brian Ballot. That's Trump's guy. He was campaign fundraiser, chairman of the fundraising committee for Trump in 2016 in Florida. He was fundraiser committee chair in 2020 and in 2024. His former employee works as Trump's chief of staff, Susie Was. Pam Bundy, the Attorney General of the United States, worked for Brian Ballot. Get Brian Ballot on a retainer, and trust me, you can deliver a lot. Now, there will be those here. Now, you see some people here, they're angry. The seditians, of course. For them, they're angry. Nobody should talk about anything good that this government does, or nobody should say that this government is on the right track, because they were a pariah regime. They were rogue elements. Tuai got sanctioned because he screwed up the deal with HPX. They took $37 million from HPX, offering up a commitment that they will consummate the deal and HPS would gain access to the rail. They failed to do that. Joe Boakai has done it in less than 2 years. So Joe Boakai gets the red carpet treatment, and they're angry. They're throwing tantrums. So ignore them. But the benefits will be enjoyed by all of us. Folks, I don't have much else to say. I just want to say, as a Liberian citizen, doing business in this country, I'm optimistic. I'm confident. If the government stays on this path, if we rework and retool our foreign policy engagement, specifically in regards to the United States, there's a lot we can leverage, and we can do a lot in this country. And lucky for us, we have a president who has the wealth of experience. He knows what needs to be done, and he seems to be strategically engaged and fixated upon that agenda. That's pretty much all I have to say. Yeah. Thank you very, very much. I'm in Liberia. I'm going back to the States in 2 weeks. I will be speaking at a annual gala in Jersey as a keynote speaker. And so July 26th, if you're in New Jersey, the Olala's annual white gala, I'm going to be there. And afterwards, I will be back in the country in Liberia. And so I wish you all the best. And when you are in power, and you don't behave responsibly, there are consequences. When you are in power and you have situational awareness and you have integrity and you govern yourself well, there are benefits. And that's what's happening for Joe Boakai. You know? Ben said, you know that you and myself go into the thing together. So that's what I wanted to say. You know, I wish you all but then again, let me ask you up right now. We got 2,000 people on. What do you think? The Ray-Ban sunglasses or the Ray-Ban Meta high-tech glasses? Which one do you like? Well, I like them both. You know? So again, to you who support the administration, I want to say this to you. You have every right, every reason to be proud of the administration. And you have every moral right to also demand that they keep raising the bar. I see you. I see some of the most fervent, loyal supporters of the president and the administration criticizing certain things that certain officials in the administration do. It's a good thing. It's a great thing. We didn't see that with the others, but we see that with you. And so we need to encourage that. That sort of behavior. That is patriotism personified. It is good behavior. That is the kind of attribute citizens of a country need to have in order for the fledgling democracy that we have to continue to grow and become fully engendered, so much so that no idiot would rise from somewhere tomorrow to undo it. And I encourage you, to the LACC, I'm not happy with you. So are most Liberians who genuinely want to see this fight against corruption seriously carried out. You're slow. You're ineffective. The president, about 2 weeks ago, suspended in 1 week 5 key government officials. Now you have a huge backlog. You have cases before you going back as far as last year. You still have not come to the public with a report telling us whether these individuals or those individuals who were suspended by the president, whether culpability or criminality was established, warranting the basis for onward criminal prosecution. You haven't done that. Now, this president intends to continue to take action where necessary. Is this how you're going to continue to undermine the fight against corruption? And to the Ministry of Justice as well. The president cannot fire the LACC without cause. They don't necessarily work at the behest of the president in that sense, because they have a degree of autonomy. But to you, the Ministry of Justice, where the LACC falls short, why don't you step in? You're not doing the president justice. You're not fair to President Boakai. You're not fair to him. And you're not even fair to some of the individuals who have been suspended for corruption. Because under our Constitution, there is a principle of speedy trial. An investigation is an essential, quintessential part of the pre-trial process. When someone is accused of something, it is only fair that the authorities charged with the fiduciary responsibility to investigate these individuals and establish, where necessary, culpability or innocence, that process is speedy, so that these individuals may have the right to have their names cleared, or if they are found culpable, to prosecute them speedily. So you're letting us down. You're not doing well. I've seen seditions, well-meaning seditions, commending the government for doing what the CDC did not do. I also want to speak to the recent efforts by the president, noble efforts I might add, to bring closure to the families of the slain former President Doe, former President Talbot, and the officials along with him who were assassinated after the coup. We've seen that. We saw President Boakai go all the way up to Grand Jida County to see the late Mrs. Nancy Doe and her husband finally laid to rest. I can tell you this much. I saw part of my folks, I have 1 foot in the Pele, in the Pele category, and 1 foot in the Congo category. I saw a lot of my Congo folks come from America and other parts of the world, and many of them here in Liberia attend what I thought was a beautiful ceremony at the Baptist Seminary compound, where Willie Talbot and his officials were finally laid to rest, where a memorial thing was done, was the beautiful. I love the way they put it together, and that's commendable. I also saw the president say, on behalf of all Liberian presidents before me, I say I am sorry for the actions and inaction during the war. That's commendable. A lot of people, I've spoken with some people, some of those people whose relatives were murdered after the coup, they feel like they can move on now. They have closure, you know? In the process of reconciliation, closure is a very essential element. They can move on and they can breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that a dignified memorial has been held, organized by the President of the Republic at the very highest level, and he was involved at every stage. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right, folks. You all have yourselves a wonderful day. So, again, to President Bouaga and your team, keep winning for Liberia. And before you leave, please call Brian Ballot. Have your team visit Brian Ballot. They call him the Rainmaker. He's Donald Trump's lobbyist. He can make things happen. He could be very, very, very instrumental and helpful in us driving our agenda geared toward economic cooperation with the United States. God bless you all. Bye-bye.